Hockey season is officially underway, and to no surprise, we saw a bunch of fireworks this week, from Brock Besser scoring 4 goals in an 8-1 win against the Edmonton Oilers, to another dramatic Leafs win in a 6-5 shootout with Austin Matthews scoring 3 goals. And I can't forget about Connor Bedard scoring his first NHL goal. He has been shooting the puck like crazy, and there's a lot of positive signs there. I'm hoping in this video I can give you 8 players that we've seen in the early going get an increased role, increased production, or just something new about their game that we think can provide value long term in terms of fantasy. My name is Mike, and let's jump into the video. Seth Jarvis, a 2022 household name at Fantasy Puck, is maybe amongst the breakout this season after a sophomore slump last year. He had a very good rookie season, and our eyes were on him a lot last year, but he really disappointed. He actually put up less points last year in more games than he did back in 2021, but this could be the breakout season for Seth Jarvis finally. Now, in the first game, Andrei Svechnikov, we know, is not starting the season healthy. I'm sorry about that, guys, but hopefully he can come back and be a dominant player like we're expecting. But regardless, Seth Jarvis played 22 minutes, maybe in his absence, but I still think his line 1 role, and he was still skating on power play 1 with Svechnikov healthy. It shouldn't really deteriorate his minutes too much when Svechnikov does come back. But what we saw from Jarvis in the first game, 22 minutes time on ice, I do think this number will come down. There was a ton of special teams in the first game against Ottawa and a lot of power play, which Jarvis was playing on. So maybe in the future, we're going to see about 18 to 19 minutes. And what we've seen from Jarvis historically is that his minutes have gone up year over year, 13 minutes in year 1, 16 minutes last year. And now if we can finally see that bump to 18 minutes in a line 1, power play 1 role, the upside is endless for Jarvis here. Now, the one thing I want to note in game 1, and something we saw in preseason, is that he's actually throwing the body around a lot more. In preseason, he had 7 hits in his first 2 games, and then the first game of the season against Ottawa, he also had 7 hits in just 1 game. And last season, he was under 1 hit per game. Is Seth Jarvis becoming now more of a power forward type player like Michael Bunting? And if that's possible, adding that dynamic to his game, so now he's going to be providing you with point upside, power play point upside, shot upside, and now hits. He's just going to be hitting every single category like player, like Vincent Trocheck. Now, if he continues this hit volume like we've seen in preseason and like we've seen in the early going, he has the upside to be a 200 shot volume and a 100 plus hit player in the league, which there's not many players like that. And for managers that are in hits and shots leagues, Jarvis becomes a must-add in the early going from the trend we're seeing right now with his hit volume. But not to mention, he plays on the best team in hockey, or a top 5 team in hockey, and in a line 1 power play 1 role. He's definitely a must-add for me right now in 12 plus team leagues. If you're in 10 team leagues, definitely still be looking for Jarvis. It really depends on who you can drop on your roster. I do know in those 10 team leagues, your rosters tend to be a little bit more full than in 12 team leagues. You don't really have much room to juggle or drop players. But Seth Jarvis here definitely becomes a guy you want to be monocling in those 10 team leagues. I like him a lot. It's going to be interesting to see moving forward if he can sustain this hit volume, but if he can, he becomes a very, very valuable player in fantasy. I know I tend to talk about the same players over and over again, but Michael Matheson is just, I'm going to keep talking about him until he's at 60% rostered. After the first game against the Leafs, he played 26 minutes and 39 seconds, added an assist on the power play, 2 shots, 2 hits, and 5 blocks, and his roster percentage went up 2%. People just don't have their eyes on Matheson. Maybe it's just because the Habs are not really a competitive team this season, but Matheson could have a Montour-like season where he comes in, plays a massive offensive role on, I guess Florida is a much better team than Montreal, but still just given the opportunity to be that pair 1, power play 1 defenseman. And if you watch the game, you see how often Michael Matheson jumps up in the rush. He is a completely offensive defenseman with not much defense, even though he does play on that penalty kill, but he is a offensive first minded defenseman, and that's what you want from defensemen in fantasy, especially someone like Matheson who actually does block shots more than some of those offensive guys. I do think he has league winning upside if he can sustain the 26 plus minutes per game or 25 minutes plus per game and his role, but we really see no competition on that Montreal Canadiens back end. Will Jacquet take over power play 1? Probably not. Will Caden Gooley take over power play 1? Probably not. So if Matheson can stay healthy for 75 plus games, continue his peripheral pace like we saw last season and now carrying into this season with the upside on pair 1, power play 1, there's just a lot to love here from Matheson. 32% rostered is just criminal. At some point, we're probably going to see him at 75+% within the next month or so. And hopefully this video will help raise this percentage and just get more awareness on Michael Matheson. But there's not many defensemen you can find on waiver wires that are playing this big of minutes in this good of an opportunity. And in 10+ team leagues, you definitely want to be looking to add Matheson to your team. There's just too much to like here. I've scooped him up now in 6 of my 8 leagues. In the 2 leagues I didn't grab him, I'm trying to actively trade for him. Just a lot I like here from Matheson, and someone you should definitely have your eye on. Leafs fans are not going to be happy with this one, but I do think it may be time to add Joseph Woll in those 14+ team leagues. What we saw in game 1 from Samsonov, he made some big saves, but he just didn't look as composed as I wanted to see from him. And he also let in 5 goals on 24 shots, but I do get it, and I know what you're saying. The Toronto defense just wasn't there to help him out. There was a couple breakaways, a tip in. There just wasn't much puck luck from Samsonov. But 5 goals on 24 shots may give Keefe reason to start Woll in the next game. And we're going to see that tonight. I'm recording this on Saturday at about 11 a.m. right now. And the Leafs play at home against the Wild. Will Joseph Woll start? I'm hoping so. And I hope we see good things from him. I want to be on the Woll train before Samsonov loses the net. And I do think it is likely that Samsonov does lose the net this season. Very similar to what we saw with Jack Campbell. I want to note that Samsonov, his most starts in the season, 40, which means there's 42 starts available. With the Leafs last season, he didn't really start as many games as you wanted to see. Can he have a 60+ start season? Maybe, but can he stay healthy for the 62 games? I think it's unlikely. With Joseph Woll, he's one of the more competent backups in the league that just haven't been given a chance yet. A 6-1 record last year with a .932 save percentage and a .216 goals against average. He came in last year in that Florida Panthers series, a team that has one of the most dynamic offenses we've seen in a really long time in the NHL. He came in, he was very good in that series. I think there's a ton of upside to like here from Joseph Woll. Even if he can start 35 to 40 games, you're still getting a goalie on a top 5 winning team in the entire NHL with hopefully a 70% win percentage this season. So I want him before Samsonov loses the net. I do think he's a must-add right now in 14+ team leagues, under the speculation that Samsonov may have another couple bad games, loses the net, and then it's Woll season. In those 12+ team leagues, I don't think he's worth rostering unless you have Samsonov on your team and you want to just scoop up the tandem and kind of hedge some of the risk. If Samsonov goes down or if he loses the net, you own the backup. So that's how I'm playing it right now. I do think he's an add in 14+ team leagues and someone you definitely want to be keeping your eye on. Very interesting develop from Gabe Vilardi so far in the early going, and last year we know he was, if you watch baseball, the Matt Chapman of the Toronto Blue Jays, who just had an extremely strong start and fell off completely in the second half. I wasn't really on Vilardi too much in preseason. We did get note that he was skating with Scheifele and Connor and playing power play 1. My big concern with Vilardi is his shot rate, and he has the 188th best shot rate in the NHL last season, which is really nothing to write home about, and that was my concern. He just really doesn't get pucks to the net. He had a super inflated shooting percentage last season, and I just wanted to see in the early going his deployment and what they do with him. But in the first game, skated top line with Scheifele and Connor. He played power play 1. He played 21 minutes and had 7 shots on goal and 8 shot attempts. Those are all positive factors from Vilardi. Do I think his shot volume is sustainable? Probably not right now, but if he continues to play 20+ minutes in a big role and power play 1, the shot volume is going to be there and the offensive touches and opportunities are going to be there. We just need to monitor moving forward if he can sustain the shot volume and the current time on ice. I don't really know what's going on in Winnipeg right now. Nikolai Ehlers crashed into the boards, and again, he's day-to-day, but this kind of is beneficial for Gabe Vilardi because that just opens up more offensive minutes for him. His upside this season, I would say, is another 20+ goal season, 50+ points, and 175+ shots. We don't really know. Again, the shots are a complete wild card this season, and the offensive touches he may be getting may actually lead to even more than 175, but I'm going to give a conservative approach right now, given we haven't seen a whole lot yet. It's just been 1 game, but I think in 12+ team leagues, he's definitely worth rostering, especially in some of those bigger roster teams. Just the upside and the opportunity playing line 1, power play 1 makes him a very intriguing option. Oliver Ekman-Larsson is someone that I think I'm the most excited to be talking about in this video. Someone I shouted out in preseason as someone you need to watch or add in deep leagues because he was getting reps on that top Florida Panthers power play. And the reason why I was so excited to talk about this is because of the development we've seen with the Florida Panthers taking in players and making them offensive gifted players. And we've seen that with Carter Verhaeghe, who went from a guy that played 9 minutes per night into a 42 goal scorer, and the most notable in Brandon Montour, who went from a bottom pair defenseman, a top 4 defenseman, to a number 1 guy that put up 70 plus points. And I just think it's the system they have in Florida that encourages defensemen to step up in the play, shoot the puck on net, and just win off offense and don't play any defense. 41 shots from the Panthers in game 1, and last season they were the highest shot volume team, the highest Corsi for percentage team. They just fire the puck so much, it's actually wild to see. But with Oliver Ekman-Larsson, he is currently the number 1 guy in Florida. I got shredded a little bit for shouting him out, and some people said that he's the reason why the Coyotes and the Vancouver Canucks could never win. But it's a completely different story here in Florida. He played 26 plus minutes, he had 4 shots, and he had 10 shot attempts. Now, I know this is game 1, but 10 shot attempts is extremely impressive from a defenseman. And if Oliver Ekman-Larsson can sustain this extremely high shot volume rate and high shots to the net rate, this is going to be extremely valuable for the next 1 to 2 months until Brandon Montour and Aaron Ekblad return to the lineup. I think right now, given what we've seen in terms of the minutes and the shots, I know it's game 1 and I know it's a low sample, but he has the upside to be a top 10 to 15 defenseman for the next 2 months, and he's just 13% rostered. The Florida Panthers team had the 3rd most power play goals last season, and we know they shoot the puck so much and they just love scoring goals, but also allowing a ton of goals. But in fantasy, you don't lose points unless you're in plus-minus leagues for allowing goals. So in non-plus-minus leagues, Oliver Ekman-Larsson becomes definitely a must-add defenseman in 12-plus team leagues. I have been going through all of my waiver wires across my leagues to add him. I think the upside here is monstrous right now, and he should be on your roster. Does he turn into an early season Brandon Montour? I think it's definitely possible. He didn't put up any points, but the opportunity was there, and the team on the road against a Minnesota Wild team who's pretty solid had 41 shots at net. I love the development early on here from Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Definitely look to add him in 12 plus team leagues, and even the 10 plus team leagues, depending on how strong your defensive core is. It's not easy to find defensemen, but Brandon Montour last season was also an early season waiver wire pickup, and we might be seeing the same thing with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. So definitely look to roster him in those 12 plus team leagues. And I'm staying with the theme in the Florida Panthers and Evan Rodrigues, a guy in the past that I just wish got more opportunity, and he finally is in Florida. He's currently playing line 1 with Alexander Barkov and skating on the top power play unit with Sam Bennett out of the lineup. In the first game, 19 minutes and 30 seconds, 4 shots, 7 shot attempts. And we know in the past with Evan Rodrigues that he is a shot volume machine and he flourishes when playing with good players. Evan Rodrigues since 2021 has the 33rd best shot rate. 2 years ago, he had 11.2 shots per 60, which ranked him top 20 in the entire NHL. And again, going back to the Florida Panthers system, they make players flourish offensively, and that's what we're going to see with Evan Rodrigues. He is definitely a must-add player right now in the early going until Sam Bennett returns, who may take a spot in power play 1. But if he doesn't, Evan Rodrigues becomes a long-term add. We do know he does have some injury history, and that's a little bit of a concern, but it doesn't really matter right now if you're adding him from free agency. He's just 13% rostered, and it's a low-risk play. I think his upside this year, and we tried to adjust his minutes and some of his rates, 25 to 30 goal upside and 250 plus shots. You can't find that very often in free agency, and right now not many people have their eyes on him, but I'm just waiting for the game where he has a goal, assist, and 7 shots and he just skyrockets up the ownership percentage. So you definitely want to be adding Evan Rodrigues, another guy that's just going to flourish in this Florida Panthers system, filling that role in the top line with Barkov and Verhaeghe, and now slotting into the top power play unit. There's so much to like here from Erod and the entire Florida Panthers team. I think he is a must-add in 12 plus team leagues. He is likely available in those 14 plus team leagues as well, but keep your eye on him in those 10 plus team leagues just to see the development, the minutes, and the shot rate. And if he does pop off in a couple games, definitely be adding him. He should be one of the top waiver wire adds for this coming week. Sean Couturier is finally back. He's healthy, he's playing good minutes, and he becomes a guy that we want to be watching right now in 14 plus team leagues. It's so exciting to see a player that just was so good in the midst of his prime of his career, and then it's sad to just see he gets injured and he doesn't really play for 2 years, but he's back, he's healthy, and he's playing under Torts. But regardless, what we saw in the first game is what we saw in the past from Sean Couturier. 20 plus minutes in an all seasons role. Line 1, power play 1, penalty kill 1. He just does everything for that entire team. No other forward played more than 17 minutes, and Sean Couturier played over 20. He's a former 2x 30 goal scorer and 70 plus point guy in that last few prime years of his career prior to injury. I don't think he has 30 plus goal upside this year or 70 plus points again, but the upside's there, the minutes there, and the opportunity will be there. And again, he's just the #1 option on a Philadelphia Flyers team that I think is a little bit of a wild card this season, but won't be very good. Maybe a bottom 5 to 7 team. Sorry, Flyers fans. But I think the upside here from Couturier, 25 plus goals, 60 plus points, 200 plus shots, and he becomes a must-add in 14 plus team leagues. I don't think I would roster him right now in 12 plus team leagues because he doesn't really hit a lot, doesn't really give a lot of blocks, and the peripherals just aren't there as much as I want to see. And it's still a lot of risk right now with Couturier and the fact that he just hasn't really played hockey, but he's healthy, he looks good, and there's a lot of promising signs from him. So someone you want to be monitoring in 10 to 12 team leagues. Look at his minutes, look at his shot volume. We'll be shouting him out here on the channel for sure, but in 14 plus team leagues, definitely want to be looking at Sean Couturier and adding him to my team. But if you play in the leagues with face-off wins and face-off win percentage, Couturier is one of the best face-off guys in the entire NHL. So if you're in a 12-team league and you're looking for a sneaky guy to add that will get you a 59-60% face-off percentage, definitely be looking at Sean Couturier. Finally, guys, the last player for this video, Ivan Provorov of the Columbus Blue Jackets. I know the picture's wrong. I literally couldn't find any picture of him on Columbus, but he was moved there in the offseason, and with news that unfortunately one of our favorite sleepers, and I know a lot of people own him, Zach Werenski, is now out 1 to 2 weeks after taking a knee-on-knee from Garnet Hathaway. Gosh, Garnet, no. We can cut that out. But Ivan Provorov becomes a really good short-term add in 14 plus team leagues. He took the reins from Werenski when he went out with injury, played 25 plus minutes, power play 1, and I don't know if he's going to stay on power play 1 with David Jiricek called up, who's one of their top defenseman prospects. Man, Jake Bean is also there, and Adam Boquist is there. So there's about 4 options for that power play 1 role. But regardless, Ivan Provorov, he has done it before in the past. He was the #1 guy in Philly for a number of years. He's had a multiple 170 plus shot, 170 plus block seasons. And with the minutes he's going to be getting here in Columbus, I do think it's possible that he could be averaging around 2 shots, 2 blocks per game, which is a very solid floor. And if he does mix in power play 1 time, he becomes a very solid add in the short term until Werenski is back and he's healthy. So in 14 plus team leagues, if you're looking for a defenseman ad right now, I definitely think Ivan Provorov is worth the ad. If you have any questions about defensemen or any players in this video that you're wondering who you should drop, send me your team or send me a list of your worst players and then who I think you should be adding, and I can give you advice on that. Definitely love doing it. If you're on the Discord already, we'll be doing that in there. But with Ivan Provorov here, he may be a better fill-in in the short term for some of your defensemen that you can just throw on waivers that you may not be sure about. 14 plus team leagues, definitely have my eye on him. 12 plus team leagues, I just don't think he's worth the ad right now, given the fact that we don't know if he's playing power play 1. That will do it for the week 2 must-have players video. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it this far, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. We're going to be pumping out content for the next little bit for you guys, so definitely stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.